Well, I was going to do a reenactment of 1 Kings 3, but I thought the Altar Guild might be a little upset. Since I set the floor on fire here on Pentecost. Or Easter. One of the high holy days. It's been Easter, okay. Today's gospel, even though it talks of healing, healing isn't the central point of the story. But it is rather a story of faith. Previously in Luke, Jesus was run out of his hometown by telling the Nazarenes that God is for all, not just them. And he was pretty blunt about it. And their response to him was pretty blunt. They were going to throw him off the cliff. And then later on, before this passage, Luke tells us about Jesus' Sermon on the Plain. In it, Jesus doesn't set down rules, but instead talks about the state of being one finds themselves in when obeying and loving God and loving those around us. The fruits of the heart. In today's passage, all that Jesus has said previously comes to life in this story. A Roman centurion, whose title itself puts him forth as an enemy of Israel. As an enemy of Israel. And he's asking for help. He's asking Jesus for help. This Roman centurion has become what appears a beloved member of the community, the Jewish community that lives around him. And they're rallying around him in order to convince Jesus that he is worthy to be helped. And the centurion, as you heard, is asking Jesus to heal his servant who is close to death. Now, the centurion appears to be a God-fearer. A God-fearer is one who respected the faith, the Jewish faith. They hung around the synagogues, and they kept the commandments as best they could, because there was one thing preventing them from converting, and that was being circumcised. And in keeping this commandment, they knew that they had to be separated and not cause those adherents to the faith to become ritually unclean. So because he is not circumcised, the centurion cannot fully gain the status of being a Jewish convert. But this centurion built his community of Jewish faithfulness that surrounds him, a synagogue. He protected them. He demonstrates love and compassion, the heart of the law. Love and compassion is the heart of the law, not throwing stones and telling people who are in and who are out. The heart of the law is love and compassion, mercy and justice. He is hospitable and generous and compassionate toward the weak, and he is kind to an ethnic group not his own. Hear what Luke is saying. Luke is saying that being a Jew is not required to be a child of God. Luke is saying that all are welcome at God's table. And here's something else about the centurion. He knows that Jesus has authority. And he knows from where it comes. And he too says that he's a man of authority, but is quick to point out that he is also under authority, the Roman state, through the puppet governor of Herod Antipas, if you remember your history. He knows of Jesus and knows that Jesus but has to say the word, and his authority over creation will obey him and heal his beloved servant. That, my friends, is a picture of true faith that amazes us today. And it amazed Jesus that he had found this faith in a Gentile. Luke's Jesus says to those hearing this that not even in Israel has he found such faith. But where did this faith come from for the centurion? I'm going to diverge ever so lightly here and bring up Pelagius, the late 4th century British ascetic, a stone in the foundation of Anglicanism. Be it a small one, it's still there. And it begs the question, is divine grace necessary for all to come to God, as St. Augustine said? Or is it possible, as Pelagius said, that some can seek out God on their own, knowing that there is a void that needs to be filled in their life? Pelagius was declared a heretic. So again, I'm going to go down the middle of the road. Proper Anglican, the via media, that I think, and I even have a Baptist here that agrees with me, my mom. I'll put you on the spot, that I think that it can happen both ways. Again, I diverge. I'm back. Pelagius will have to wait for Sunday school class. The centurion had faith in Jesus, not exhibited by the Jewish community that Jesus encountered. Community was central for this soldier. He expressed himself to others through affection and care of those around him. His faith was public, as presented in this story. He didn't hide his need for help. Luke, through this story, which also appears in Matthew, wanted his community, and Christian communities that followed to know that God's love is not limited to those we think of as God's chosen, be they Jews or Christians. But God's love and actions of God's love. The slave, the servant, was healed. That also, God's love and actions of God's love also encompasses those that we might include on the list of the current enemies of the state. Muslims, atheists, transgendered people are all appearing on the list of enemies. But for Luke,